Well, it's been a while since I did a video, but here I am. I'm still alive. Hope you're all good. I'll explain in a minute why I've not done a video for a while. But yeah, woke up this morning and thought, let's do a video, let's create some content. So what I'm going to try and do is just reflect on everything that's happened, well, not on everything that's happened, summarise where I am now, to be honest with you, and where I think the world's at, and what I think is to come. All sounds very, very vague, and I'm not really going to be going into any great detail, but hopefully you'll find it interesting anyway. So yeah, I've not posted a video for a while. Number one, I've been struggling a little bit with injuries, particularly with my knee, which I need to have yet more surgery on, which is a pain, so I'm having to manage that. It's been difficult. And another injury as well where I've had surgery, so I've been a bit of pain. I'm all right though. I'm good apart from that, but it's made going out on my country walks a little bit more difficult. And the second reason is I've kind of not really felt the compulsion to create content. I've had ideas in the last couple of weeks of you know what I think would be very valuable and good content, but just really not had the impetus to do what I'm doing now, sit down and create. But that's okay as far as I'm concerned. You know, I've always had the attitude that if I do a video, I do a video, and if I don't, I don't, and you know that's it really. Hopefully when I do, it is of some value to my subscribers. So I hope you're all well, and I'd be really interested to know what you think in the comments about what I'm about to talk about. So I would have gone out for a walk this morning. I mean, I can walk, don't get me wrong, I can walk with the knee, it's locking and it collapses on me and it's not good. But I can walk, just not as far or as fast as I'd like to at the moment. But I was going to go out this morning, and it's a lovely day, but it's too windy, so you wouldn't have been able to hear anything I was saying, hence why I'm doing the video inside. And I know that, well, I certainly prefer to shoot the videos outside, and I think a lot of you do as well. Majority of my videos I've done over the years now have been filmed outside in the lush, gorgeous countryside that I am so fortunate to live in. So, okay. I've had a real mentality shift. Now, I've done videos before where I've talked about this, and you know, to degrees I've had not a mentality shift, an energy shift, really, a perspective shift. I've done videos before, I've talked about that. However, in this instance, it's been long-lived. It's been very real. And I think it comes from a place of self-preservation more than anything else. I think it really does. You know, the things that have happened to me in the last couple of years, which involve the death of my dad from the medical procedure. I know most of you will be aware of that, but I always make a point of telling people, if you're new to me, if you've never heard this before, my dad died after receiving the booster. So that happened. I had some quite major surgery right in the middle of all of the insanity of the last few years, and another operation. And just the toll of, you know, particularly at the start, in my circles, standing alone when I saw what was happening, and the loneliness and isolation, and then the trauma of everything that happened with my dad, and then the ongoing relentless war that I've been fighting, really, and that plays out in your head. I've always tried to be a leader. I've always tried to forge the way forward. I've always tried to be one of the ones to walk bravely into this scary, uncertain new world that has been largely created for us. But it's certainly taken its toll on me. So the energy shift is I've had to I've had to put my anger to one side. This is literally to ensure my own survival. The scale of the wickedness is far beyond what any of us will be able to comprehend. Certainly what I can. And when it's affected you directly, can't even talk. It's so much more pronounced. And as I've said on many occasions on my channel, the thing that has disgusted and shocked me the most has been the reaction, or should I say non-reaction, of the general public. The lack of interest, the lack of compassion, the lack of appreciation for acknowledgement of people suffering, appreciation of truth, yearning for truth, as well as the widespread, complete disregard for very basic human rights. You know, I've struggled so much with that, and now I'm at a place, having explored this via my YouTube channel, in the book, and in the podcast to do. Links to the book and the podcast in the description. I've come to the realization, and it is a realization. It's not an inkling. It's not a suspicion. It's a very concrete realization that none of that's going to change. None of that's going to change. Now, this video isn't negative or anything like that. I'm just being brutally honest about where I think we are as a world at the moment. It's a bit out of control, as ever. Wouldn't be me if my hair wasn't out of control. People, let's be honest, they don't care. The majority don't care. They don't care what's happened in the last 3 years. They don't care about the psychological attack on them and their children. They don't care that they willingly gave up basically all of their most fundamental rights at the whim of their own governments. They don't care about the terrible suffering that has taken place and continues to unfold right in front of their very eyes. They don't care for conversation. They don't care for truth. They don't care for justice. They just don't. It's just the way it is. They just don't. And that's it. So the conundrum then is, how do you, when you combine that with the need for self-preservation, and not just self-preservation, but giving yourself the permission to be able to try to enjoy your life, to do the things that you want to do, to engage with the activities that you enjoy, to immerse yourself in the pursuits that you enjoy, and somehow to try to enjoy the company of the people who fall into the categories. I mean, it is the majority that I've just described. Because if we can't somehow do that, life is just not worth living. And the anger would destroy me. So my fresh perspective is to remain as much in the thorn, remain as much a thorn in the side of anybody who tries to control me, and of anybody who ever tries to shut me up, as I've always been, just in a different way. And what is that way? That way is by showing the other side to my character, which is probably restraint, which I'm not going to say patience because I've got none of that left, but restraint by being considered, by maybe creating more, by looking after my health more. This is a big one. By nurturing my own health and mind, body and soul, to get myself, particularly with, as I say, all these health issues that I've got at the moment, to get myself into the strongest possible place that I can do. By being more selfless, by being less self-destructive and self-sabotaging less, and finding more balance. Now, all of those things have happened for me in the last couple of months. And I like that, because I, in the last couple of months, feel I'm more able to not only deal with life's challenges, but even sometimes enjoy my experience on this wonderful planet, albeit with very many people living on it who are definitely not wonderful. So where are we in terms of those concepts such as truth and justice and accountability? Very, very far away. Truth, and here's how I'd say, the ugly lies were exposed far quicker, and everything unravelled, the con unravelled far quicker than I ever thought it would. You know, I never thought we'd get to a place where all of the various authorities and entities that have perpetrated this crime on this planet, that they will be found out so quickly, and that the evidence will be so stark, proof so stark, so overt and so in our faces. Yet there we are, which makes what I'm about to say now even worse, because in the face of that, people simply don't care. They just don't. They don't care. They don't want to talk about what's happened. They just want to move on. They have let us down. And it is unforgivable. You'll notice that I am speaking without anger here. Maybe that makes what I want to say even more prescient. Maybe it hits the point home more. I don't know. I've learned what is, in the last few years, what's just noise, what's just fluff, what's just irrelevance. And I include, remember those lockdown files, things like that. In that, I include things as some other examples. Andrew Bridgen, he's joined the Reclaim Party, I think it's called. Got a lot of time for Andrew Bridgen, a hell of a lot of time, admiration for him. But it's irrelevant that he's joined Lawrence Fox's party. It's completely irrelevant. Things like this are just, they don't matter. For me, it's always been for me, and I think I'm right. I think I've always been right on this. For me, I've always said I'll know the picture's changing, I'll know the world's changing, I'll know that we're winning when I see that around me. I see evidence of that around me in my conversations with the people who fall into the categories that I've just described earlier on in the video, and that's just simply not happened. Maybe a tiny bit with a couple of people, but simply not happened to anywhere near enough, a large enough degree. And, you know, people are largely still trapped in this paradigm of politics. It's bizarre because people, you know, kind of rightly say politicians are to blame for everything. They are, but nowhere near as much to blame as they are themselves. Yet at the same time, they still expect the politicians to be their saviours. It's bizarre, you know, and they're still trapped in it. And you can't. We've talked a lot in the last few years about people waking up and snapping out of the coma, and most, they just haven't. They do know that. They know we were right. They stopped complying in the end with all the COVID stuff. But the fact they just want to move on from it, they were too traumatised by it. They don't want to go there. They haven't got the bravery and the courage. And their values aren't aligned with what my values are, in pursuit, you know, things like pursuit of freedom and truth. It shows that they haven't broken out of that perceptual prison, that trap. So some positives, I would say, are despite all that, here's the positives. I think it was only a tiny number of people who adopted the position of, I will not comply regardless of the consequences. There was a hell of a lot of people who dipped in and out of different things. You know, didn't get the jab, but they wore the mask. things like that. That was never really good enough for me. You've got to, you're either fully against tyranny or you're for it. That's it for me. I think the percentage of people, as I say, who just stood there and said no, whatever you tell me to do, I am not doing it, was tiny. And I think there was quite a lot of other people who attached themselves on the fringes. Maybe they'd go to protests and they'd maybe hold up a sign at a protest saying no more masks. But then when they were by themselves, maybe in the supermarket, they'd be wearing a mask, because those numbers that were on the protest never translated into non-compliance with masks on just at a local level. So I think there was a lot of people who were giving it all that, but weren't walking the walk. These are just my opinions. I might be wrong. But that tiny minority, look what we've done. Look what we've stopped. Look how we've managed to preserve much of what we had before 2020. We do still have, and much of what they tried to impose, they've not been able to. Yes, terrible carnage and suffering, as I well know, has been wreaked. But I remember one of the last videos I did before the break was I talked about how a lot of the culture and tradition and customs in the UK were still very much alive and kicking. You only need to step away, from your phone, out the Telegram groups and out into the fresh air outside, and you'll see, particularly where I live, you've got people picking litter, you've got people planting flowers. I think people talk to each other more, neighbours, which is nice. You've got a lot of craft fairs and country shows. So a lot of the pubs are thriving, the garden centres are thriving. It's not all doom and gloom, and I'm going to come to the truther community in a minute. Now, if it wasn't for the actions of the tiny minority of people who've never been thanked for it, all that'd be gone, or it'd still be there, but we wouldn't be allowed to access it. Wouldn't be allowed to go into a pub, wouldn't be allowed to go into a garden centre to buy some flowers to plant in our gardens. We'd be ostracised, and we came perilously close to that, let's not forget. And what I'm increasingly coming to realise as well, I think it is possible to have a good life going forward. I think if you're savvy, if you're brave, very courageous, and you're able to create and innovate, and continue to adopt that position of I will not comply, regardless of the consequences, I think there is a life. I do. I think the prevailing zeitgeist of the times and the winds that are blowing, prevailing winds that are blowing through our culture, are being disturbed, but they're still very much the dominant force. But just simmering beneath, there's this counterculture, there's this other way of life that we can tap into whenever we want to. And there's lots of positives there. The attacks on country, nationhood, family, mind, body and spirit, on our private property, all these things that we've talked about are happening. But with the correct mindset and mentality, philosophy, if you're clever, if you're intelligent, if you're brave, you've got to be all these things to survive, right, in the next few years. If you're resourceful, if you're able to withstand pain and you're resilient, there's so much good out there as well that they cannot destroy. Because the spirit of a few is absolutely outstanding. Those small business owners, for example, what they've been through and what they've withstood and how they've managed to survive and in some cases thrive, fair play to them. Those people who've withstood horrendous assaults on them in their workplace, the bullying and the coercion that went on, they've somehow come through. All the people, I don't know how I don't know how I'm still alive. I really don't. But some days I just think, Dave, you're invincible. I do sometimes think I'm indestructible, and it's just that spirit that I know I've got and I know others have got, and that spirit has been directed in towards repelling this tyranny. We haven't stopped it. Well, I said before, we've stopped. We've stopped it getting worse. We've repelled it. It's still there. It's waiting to strike. But has also been channeled into this counterculture of, you know, new literature and books and really good conversations and things going on in the community and things that are there to promote life itself. Really, you know, socializing and collaborating and helping each other out and things like that. And if you think about how much art, how much music, how much literature has been created in the last few years that we don't even know about now, but that in time will become famous, you know, because being suppressed at the moment. That the arts has been utterly decimated and made toxic and ugly. But only the mainstream arts, as I say, there's so many people, the true creators, the ones who really do have love in their heart, they've still been creating. They might have been getting censored and smeared and vilified. They've still been creating. There'll be some absolutely era-defining music and art and literature that most people aren't aware of at the moment, but it's there and it's just waiting to be discovered. So there's a lot of good. Nature still looks absolutely captivating. And when I go step outside my front door and I immerse myself in nature, it's the same feeling I've always had. And a lot of people have said the last few years been the greatest education we could ever possibly hope to have. Well, that's true, isn't it? We now know, we understand people, we understand ourselves, we understand our worlds better, albeit we still have huge existential dilemmas and questions to ask and to answer. What about the truther community? I'm going to say it right now. I want to distance myself as far as I possibly can from it. It is toxic. And the brainwashing in large elements of the truther community is, it's unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. The same traits that defined the sheep, the normies, with how they were brainwashed, i.e. get them to concentrate on just one thing, an inability to be able to hear different points of view, a fanatical obsession that they were in pursuit, that they were correct, and a propensity to be distracted like that to wherever the forces controlling their minds wanted them to go, and an obsession with a real fear determining and dictating their every second of every day of their existence. It's the same in the truther community. It is. A lot of the normies have now moved on, or whatever you want to call them, the masses that I don't know, whatever. They've just moved on. And shame on them for the reasons I said earlier in the video. They're not really that scared anymore. A lot of them will be lulled back into fear when the next crisis is manufactured for us, easily, because they've never come to terms with why it was they were lulled into this psychosis anyway, because they don't understand, because for the reasons I spoke about earlier on. A lot of them are kind of enjoying their lives now. A lot of people in the truther community are living in this abject fear, talking to themselves, bouncing the same conversations, boom, 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 every single day. And most of them aren't offering anything to resolve, to come up with a solution. They're just doing the same old shit, sharing stuff all the time on Telegram. I find it unbelievable. I really do. I find it unbelievable. And ironic, because I see now how brainwashed a lot of them are. I see how obsessed, fanatical a lot of them are, to the point where they're just, I don't know what kind of life it is that they've got. You know, two examples were one of the things that we've laughed about on our side. Not that I'm not on anyone's side now. I'm on the side of anyone who won't comply with tyrants I'm on the side of anyone who stands up for human rights. I'm on the side of defending the rights of the next generation and children. So if you agree with me on that, then I align myself with you. But we often talked in the last few years about our side and what our side stands for and what our side think. And what our side often said was how easy it was to distract the masses with whatever, climate change, Black Lives Matter, Ukraine and Russia, you know, all the rest of it. Well, it's the same with the truther community. 2 examples, that emergency alarm a few weeks ago, they were obsessed with it. They were obsessed with it. And then the coronation of King Charles. Didn't talk about anything else. For about 3 days, it was just talk about the emergency alert. And then that gone, it's like that never happened. And then over that coronation, it's all they talked about. I just don't, I don't have any, I don't want anything to do with all that anymore. I just don't, because people don't understand, they just don't understand. They don't understand it's frustrating. You don't defeat a tyranny by just going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about what they're going to do all the time. You defeat it by, as I say, by what can you do in your local community? What battle can you most effectively fight yourself? What is your skill? What can you do? What can you focus on? For me, it's always been these videos talking about society, writing my book, doing my podcast. That's me. It's always been, that's how I have most effectively taken on this evil. It's about getting out and meeting people. If you really do believe that we're becoming disconnected and atomized, and that transhumanism is, which I do, I agree with, let me just say again, everything not everything, most threats the truther community have pointed out are real. It's the way that they go about it, I say they, many people within it go about it, is not the right way. You have to somehow be willing to change your perspective, to find a way of answering or tackling these existential problems, to reconnect, find a way to reconnect with the source that's within us, the source that's within the universe, to offer something by creating something. It's not just mindless and endless chatter and immersion in fear, apocalyptic doom all the time. What good is that? So no, truther community, that's not for me. I'm savvy enough and I know enough now. I mean, and I know fundamentally what's right and what's wrong. I understand how tyranny presents itself. I understand the dynamics of power to a large enough degree now to be able to say, screw you, when an individual or organisation that thinks it's got control over me wants to control me. No, I know that. But I also know that in giving these individuals, entities, organisations, psychopaths too much of my energy, I'm not doing anything for myself or for the world. And I just won't do it. I just won't do it. So, what does the future hold? The brutal reality of it is, as I say, I think there is I'm quite enjoying my life now. I still have anger in my heart, and I'll never lose that, and I'll never want to lose it until these bastards are made to pay for what they've done, and until society has a reckoning with itself. And that means tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of individuals across the world having a reckoning with themselves. I'll never truly be at peace. I'll always have anger in my heart, a righteous anger. But for the time being, I am learning again to find some peace and harmony and balance in amongst this. maelstrom of emotions and this insanity and this wickedness that pervades the world at the moment. And I do believe that with bravery and courage, that there's a way to at the very least, to a life that's not defined by control, tyranny, threats. There's a way to see all that, but to just step aside from it. And the reason for that is because of the relative few. And I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. If you're one of those people who just said, no, I will not. And I know just from my YouTube subscribers, and that's why I love this channel. I know that some of you have been through hell. I know that some of you truly are incredible people. You know, courageous, brave people. And I love my YouTube channel because even though it's only very, very small, I think that you get what it is that I talk about, and you like what it is that I do, and that we have a good connection, you know. I believe I operate in a very, very, very narrow niche. I refuse to be co-opted into any group or movement. But if you like what I say, and you feel a connection with what I say, then that's amazing. And as I say, I want you to leave a comment, let me know what you think about my change in perspective and what I've said here. Yes, so however, is something similar to what's happened with under the guise of COVID going to happen again? Yes, it will. It will. When? I don't know. 5 to 10 years time, maybe? Yeah. And I mean something that's, there are all these threats to do with man-made climate change. I'll do some videos on climate change. I'm interested in the weather and climate. These threats to do with transhumanism, as well as the day by day attempts to re-engineer society, in particular indoctrinate the youth in the most despicable ways possible. That's all going to keep carrying on, but so is the subculture that I believe is operating as an antidote to that we can choose to immerse ourselves in. And it's very, very important, particularly those parents who understand what I'm talking about here, that they continue to show to their children that there is an alternative culture, one that is defined by well-defined values, and that exists to draw out the very best in them, and that exists to tap into ingenuity and creativity and things like that. But will something sudden, like what happened under the guise of COVID, be sprung upon the population, and will most people react in the same way again? Yes. And there's one very simple reason for that. No, two. Number one is, as I've said in this video, people haven't reflected en masse, so they've not learned, they haven't properly understood. And number two, the control mechanisms, although weakened, are still there. Nobody's been held accountable. Yeah, we heard people saying things about Jacinda Ardern and Nicola Sturgeon. Well, haven't they just gone on to other jobs in big corporate organisations and doing the same level of damage? The organisations, the politics, the corporate entities are still by and large untouched. And even more crucially, the foot soldiers of the regime, so just in my country, the civil service, the ones who implemented all this disgusting tyranny, civil service, NHS, teachers, police, they're all the same people, the same foot soldiers who've not held themselves accountable, who've just looked the other way implemented disgusting tyrannical measures that have harmed people. They're all still there. Will they do it again when asked? Well, I think we know the answer to that question. It's obvious. Yes, they will. So something as big will happen again in my mind. And I don't like saying that. But it's just where logic takes me. And only then, when it happens again, then that will then finally be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because the camel's back hasn't been broken, has it? So that's where we are at the moment. That's where I'm at. Long video that. Hope you got something from it. You may vehemently disagree with me, and if you do, that's fine. Let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks again. I hope you're all well. If you are interested in mine and Paul's podcast, please, it's an Englishman, an Irishman, and a load of bollocks, where we just try to talk about the issues of the day in a relatively light-hearted manner, albeit we tackle some pretty serious stuff as well. And if you're interested in buying my book, where I wrote that in 2019, 2020, and 2021, and it's a critical analysis of a Western world that I believe is collapsing, and the reasons for that, as well as what I think the Western world will look like in 25 to 30 years time. If you're interested in that, links are in the description. I'm going to leave it there. Do leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with anyone you think might be interested in it. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.